Hey, AJ.
Brain!
Oh my God, why do we even do a sound check? How, how's it going?
It's great, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, thanks for being here. This is wonderful. It's the greatest. It's the greatest thing ever.
Aren't I great? Oh, you can kick me off the show now.
It's the AJ show. AJ show.
You'd be like, yeah, come on.
I mean, come on. Okay, I let's not torture anybody.
Oh, did you have Firewall in the run of show today?
Fuck Firewall. Oops, there goes monetization.
Yeah, you gotta wait 15 seconds. It's okay. Maybe it was past 15 seconds.
Yeah, no, there's no Firewall in the run of show.
Why don't
but
I mean?
But we can talk about it, man. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Like it's not like I
we
spent
do all this
all day.
prepping. We do all this prepping before the show. 30 minutes before the show, we do prepping. And we yes, we got this.
Listen,
and then you hit play, and then you hit go live, and then my brain's like, oh yeah,
right.
Well, actually,
one of us does this 3 days a week. Well, I mean, not lately, but one of us does this 3 days a week and can't be spending all day preparing for it. I got other shit to be doing.
And with that,
you want to start?
Let's go.
Let's go. This is PSVR GamesCast Live. We film live every single Monday, Wednesday, and 2 Wise Friday right here on YouTube. We do it live, 6 p.m. Eastern for your viewing pleasure, but we also care about your oral pleasure. That's why our friend Rye Pop Up puts this to podcast services of your choice. We sound so good. We sound so good in the orals.
Ooh.
I can hear your voice reverberating in the back of my throat, AJ. My name's Brian Poffnician, right here without parole. Definitely demonetized. And to my left, your right, it's AJ from the Underground, PSVR Underground.
Thank you, Brian. And what is up, man? What is up, Game Cats? Happy Monday. And I know Mondays usually suck. Yes, it's true. But we are here, Brian, to ensure their Monday sucks.
Period. We should just end it there. Be like, sorry guys, your Monday's gonna suck a lot more right now.
Just a little less.
That's right. Man, dude, it's been crazy, dude. It's been crazy. I took 2 weeks off at the end of 2024, beginning 2025, just to kind of like refuel, right? Like you get a little bit of energy back. You know, remember that I do have a passion for this stuff, and I love doing the channel stuff. But you can forget. You very easily forget, right? If you don't give yourself a little bit of time to breathe sometimes. And then I come back after 2 weeks of taking time off, and then I'm sick for 2 weeks. Like, what an absolute disaster, man. And now we know the answer of how long it takes to bankrupt without parole. 1 month,
yeah,
AJ. That's
no, I hear you. I took a little vacation in December for about a week, and yeah, but that whole time, like I drove a total of like 14 hours and was visiting family, you know, doing like Christmas and New Year's stuff. And then I got back and like, man, like I'm still really tired and burnt out. So I actually took the last like 3 days off, not including the weekend. And it was really nice. And I was like, man, you know, I took this break because I just wanted to have a staycation, just some time to myself and collect my thoughts, like you said. Because yeah, all of this can become so much work a lot of the times. I mean, it's fun work, but it's still work. And like I was just the first day, like I didn't know what to do with myself. I'm like, because I'm just so used to always doing like 50,000 things at once. Like the second I like didn't have anything to do, I like had this horrible anxiety. And I was just like, what is going on? And then so like, you know, I wanted to unplug from video games. I wanted to unplug from work, unplug from doing anything. But surprisingly, the most relaxing thing I found while on vacation was, you guessed it, playing lots of VR games, as well as lots of cooking and cleaning. So like, yeah, man, we're just, once you work, I don't know, we're just not designed to just sit around and do nothing all the time. It'll make you go crazy.
I mean, speak for yourself. I take so much pleasure in just laying in bed. In fact, people are like, people, you hear it all the time. It's the same story all the time. People retire and then they immediately go back to work. They're like, oh, I was bored. 3 days after, like, I'm already bored. I'm like, you are out of your goddamn mind. I could spend the rest of my life in bed watching ridiculous YouTube content and never get bored of it. I love just being in bed. Like, are you kidding me? Bored? Never.
Yeah. I think I was like that at one point, but something changed. Now I've got old man syndrome where I'm just like, gotta be doing something. Shit, I got nothing to do. I'm sure something's broken I can fix, which I did. I fixed lots of things around the house too. Oh man. But no, the gaming, the VR gaming, man, like, you know, it was nice to just play games for fun. You know, we got like Arken Age released last week. I hope all of you went out and bought it and are loving it because it was fantastic. It was really, really nice surprise, right? Like how good and polished it is. But I got to just play stuff that I wanted to for fun, including a lot of my backlog stuff. I finally, the cats are going to love this. I finally played Arcade Paradise.
Whoa.
Yes.
Wait, so did that just come along at a bad time for you, or what happened? Because I was raving about that and I was so excited for it, and then you didn't even play it.
It came at a really bad time, Brian.
Okay.
And and that's what happened. That's why I didn't play it. And then just, you know, before I could get to it, all these other things started going on. So, but yeah, no, I played it and it was pretty cool. I like it. It's not like VR AF enough, but it is like, you know, it's still a cool, creative, original idea for a VR game. Really weird. But I'll tell you, man, that game is fucking evil. Okay? That game is truly evil. You know why? Because there is nothing I hate on this earth more. I don't hate a lot of things. I hate like practically nothing.
Let me guess, cleaning toilets.
But one of those things I hate more than cleaning toilets, Brian, is doing laundry. I hate doing laundry so much. And that game is so evil because, yeah, it's this weird combination of you running a laundromat and then you have like this arcade section and you're like starting to make more money off the arcade. So you start investing in the arcade section more. And in between all this, you have to do laundry and it's torture. I could not, like, I got a couple, like an hour or two into it and I was like, this is really cool, but I will not do any more laundry, Brian. I will not.
See, the thing is what they don't tell you is that you never have to do laundry, right? Like you can just because there's no fail state. Right? The laundromat can't go out of business, and so you never have to do laundry. You can just start making a menial income with the arcade machines and never do laundry. I didn't know that, and I took the game kind of seriously and felt like I played it the way that the designers made it, and so I made it into a thriving laundromat and said, "Who cares about these 3 arcade machines in the back?" Hours and hours of doing laundry.
Yeah, I just wanted to play. I mean, it worked at first, but at some point I was like when I got like the second level of like arcade cabinets I can buy, and it's like, okay, this is going to take some time.
Yep.
I was just like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done doing laundry as much as I want to. But I enjoy the little arcade games that they have in there. They're actually pretty cool. They're actually kind of fun. There's like a light gun arcade game where it's just shooting targets, and there's like the ice hockey one.
Are you mansplaining Arcade Paradise VR to
me? Sure, I don't know, but anyways, no, it was just nice to get to go back and play some games that because we try to be as thorough as possible, as professional as possible with our like opinions and guidance for games, and yeah, playing everything is part of the territory, so. It was nice to get caught up on that, and I also enjoyed some other things too. Epic roller coaster, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
A little kind of underappreciated, thing. It's not like amazing, but it's pretty good. It got bHaptics support, which shout out to the comments, all of these lovely people in the chat, for pointing it out to me, because like that was one of the things that originally sold me on the bHaptics vest was playing Epic Roller Coaster with just the audio to haptics.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have official support is really nice. And yeah, man, Epic Roller Coaster, really awesome with the bHaptics vest. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, Epic Roller Coaster, one of those games I played when I first got my Quest 1, I think. Sorry, sirens on my end. And I was like, yeah, this is fine. Fun little free, kind of throwaway roller coaster game. Man, massive improvements to the PSVR2 version. And so that is very cool. I want to spend more time in it. I think I've got all the DLC at this point, so I want to spend more time with it.
I kid you not, I spent about 10 hours in it with the bHaptics vest.
Nice.
And they added a couple new levels, new DLC pack,
Yeah,
and
game
some
modes and stuff, right?
Yeah, I think there's like some new stuff in there. The new there was only one good new level in it, but it was pretty cool. But yeah, shout out Epic Roller Coaster because it's that. But dude, I'm telling you, man, like I went crazy. Those were, probably the two most appropriate ones to talk about on this podcast that I played. But I also was playing a lot of other things as well in VR.
Well, AJ, you'll be happy to know that I played Bridge the Gap. It's
I'm
just,
so happy for you.
I thought you would be. I thought you would be. This is mostly footage of me playing the tutorial. It's the tutorial is so simple. Obviously, they're just teaching you to play the game, and then they drop you into like World 1, Level 1, and it's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. It's like immediately difficult. You're like, whoa, I didn't expect it to get this hard this quickly. It's funny because I was telling you before the show that that my immediate first impression of this, I mean, it looks cheap. It has kind of a cheap look and feel to it. But my immediate thoughts were, man, I'm enjoying playing this more than I enjoyed playing Humanity, right? Because I've got two hands in the world. I'm placing blocks. I'm picking up these little characters and turning them around with my hand and putting them back down. Like it's the piece of Humanity that was missing. Because Humanity was more like, oh, I'm looking in on this world, but I don't feel like I'm interacting with it other than making the dog run around with the analog stick. And so, yes, Humanity has the AV experience that you're looking for, the incredible polish and the awesome music, but this has this feels like VR Lemmings in a way that Humanity just felt like Lemmings with a VR mode tacked on.
Yeah,
so it's not great, but for like $10 or something, it's fun. Good old time waster.
I loved Lemmings growing up, and I enjoyed Humanity for about 10 hours, and then I just kind of got bored because puzzles. Yeah. That's a long time to spend with that game, but I'm all after Humanity. Like I got my Lemmings in VR fill, and I'm good. And I have zero interest in this, unfortunately.
Listen, I was playing the Game Gear version of Lemmings the other day, and was like, this is way fucking better than I remember it. It's like one of the worst ports of like an old game, and I'm playing it in 2025 being like, this is still pretty good, right? I've always kind of said, oh, I've never been a big fan of Lemmings, but the second I sat down to start playing it, I was like, I think I'm really having fun with
That's the power of the Game Gear, baby.
Yeah, that and Axe Battler really carried the system.
6 AA batteries for 2 hours of playtime right there.
That's true. I was an AC adapter person, just stuck to the wall. I'm like, I'm just going to hang out over here by the window.
Yeah. Yep. I had a Game Gear and I never had a Game Boy. Can you believe that?
I didn't have a Game Boy until way later in life. I always thought that screen was just abysmal, and then I was right. It was, but I mean, like, it was like it was super cheap, and what an amazing library of games. It's been really fun going back later in life and seeing all the games I missed on the Game Boy. Good stuff.
Game Boy Advance, man. Those Castlevania games. Woo, yeah.
Listen, Game Boy Advance is really right up there with one of my favorite systems of all time. Like
it's really good.
Somebody said, "Hey, what if we gave the Super Nintendo another 8 years of life?" and and that's exactly what happened. We got more Super Nintendo games for like almost a decade. It was great. We need more of that in this world. Where's my PlayStation 2? Huh? I need the PlayStation 2 to have another decade of life. Yeah, my insanely popular opinions.
Shuhei is sorry that didn't happen.
For sure. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Let's talk about some tips. We got Not Sure Brando with the $10 tip says, let's get this here choo-choo tip train rolling. Sorry, I said it like that.
Let's go.
was it's the most horrible read of a tip ever. Just proves that I can't read. Elderly Morningstar with the €5 says, the AJ show. Yeah.
Let's go, Elderly.
Yeah,
You know what
he
time it is.
Yeah, he responds with another €5 saying, and the Brian show. I got to work on that tune in my head. I feel like there's something there that I haven't really worked out yet. Not sure Brondo with the level 2 membership. No, sorry, level 3 membership says AJ has that angelic glow going on. You look mighty cherub today.
Yeah.
That sounds like an insult when I said it. It sounded like a compliment when Brondo said it, but when I said it sounded like, yeah.
It's because apparently if I don't have my light, my desk lamp on anything other than blinding spotlight into my eyes, then you all say it's too dark in here. So I've got it on blinding power.
Bro, this channel is coming up on 10 years old. And for 8.5 out of those 10 years, it was just me sitting in the dark. I don't know what people are complaining about. Alex in Toronto with the Canadian $10 tip says, also, Alex, where do you live? Do you think he's just trying to throw us off? He's like, I'm really in Quebec. But no one will ever know. What's your opinion on Jamie Feltham's article that VR probably would have made Sony more money than canceled live service games? Well, I mean, canceled live service games made Sony's negative money, and VR games will probably make them a little money. I didn't read the article, but my opinion is that the money could have been much better spent, and a lot fewer jobs would have been lost in the process.
I did read the article. It was a great article, and I meant to share it on Twitter, so thank you for reminding me. But yeah, it is what it kind of points out. Like you said, it just talks about how, like, man, like all these failed live services, the closing of the studios, and just how, it doesn't, with the whole situation with VR, for us that are invested in VR and like, this is how we enjoy playing our games the most. Things like this, he just talks about, like, it doesn't just sting, like it really hurts, like, because, the studio shut down, the potential, the things that we want to see, this stops those from happening. So it was a great article. I wish more media outlets would write stuff like this, but that's going to be a while because they have no more integrity left and only just do whatever's best for them and their business interests. So it's not really about games journalism anymore, as it is just generating revenue, unfortunately. And articles like this, they don't get read and supported enough. But it was a great article, and yeah, great job by Jamie. Cool dude.
I'll have to give it a read. Interesting idea. It also speaks to what Sony's sort of become over the last decade or so. They used to be this company that took like lots of risks and, bring over and they would spend money on projects that they knew weren't going to make a lot of money. They would spend a lot of money, bringing games over from Japan that they knew weren't going to have a wide audience. They were helping fund a lot of indie games that they knew weren't going to sell terribly well. Right. And they just cared about like sort of nurturing the ecosystem, instead of just these quadruple A titles that cost, hundreds of millions of dollars to make, and will bankrupt the studio if they don't sell. And it would be nice. So obviously we're going to talk a little bit about Shuhei's thoughts on PSVR2 in a minute, but it would be nice if they spent a little bit more, a little bit more of the money on VR stuff. Obviously, yeah. I think this is what we've all been saying since, for 9 years now.
Yeah, London studio, instead of working on a live service game, porting Blood and Truth over, as well as working on something for PSVR2, as they have done historically. Yeah. Released games for new hardware. Maybe you could have helped port Astrobot. And then, yeah, just all the other studios and everything. Firesprite was working on a live service game, I think they said. It's like you hired them to make VR games, and you've got them working on a flat live service game. Like, it's a mess. It's a mess there. But
yeah, I mean, the Persistence was one of our favorite games of last generation. It got a PS5 version. They made Call of the Mountain with Guerrilla, and we didn't get Persistence brought over to PSVR2. Like, what is happening? Just like Garfield the lasagna lover is wondering, Right, hashtag viewer takeover. Remember, guys, you can get your viewer takeover questions on the show, just like Garfield the Lasagna Lover did, by going over to our Discord and putting your viewer takeover questions in viewer takeover channel. He writes, do you have any insider info on devs working to upgrade their PSVR1 games to PSVR2? I don't need to know specific names. I just want to know if they're still coming for the sake of game preservation. AJ, I don't know. I mean, outside of, I know that Blake and Colton over at Vitruvius have been talking about bringing Shadow Legend over to PSVR2. They've been talking about that pretty openly on their Discord. Other than that, those conversations have either like faded out or they're all happening in the background, and I'm not privy to any of that information. So, I mean, do you know of any that are on the way? And if not, what are some games that need to be on the way?
Well, off the top of my head, there's not really that many I can think. I'm sure there's a couple games like, getting remastered or something that by some independent studios. The ones that we need to have remade, Brian, I mean, first and foremost are absolutely the first party games. Because those are just really awesome, important, big, great games.
And
Stuff
those
like
are the ones
Astrobot.
that are stuck on PSVR1, right? They're
Yeah.
not even on Steam or Quest. So, as to Garfield's point, for the sake of game preservation alone, they need to be brought over.
Yeah, that's a big one. The Farpoint, Astrobot, Wipeout, Blood and Truth. Those are some big ones. But then it's not just the first party though that's on there. There's some other ones as well, like Skyrim VR. I mean, that Skyrim is a system seller. People will go out and buy a VR headset just for Skyrim and VR. It's what sold me on PSVR1. It's like when I was like, oh shit, like this is not the PS Move camera 1.0 movement again. No, like this is the real deal. This is a AAA huge, like, generational title in VR. So a lot of the big hitters, I think, need to be ported over the most stuff, like I mentioned. And there's a ton of other really great games that, it's just, you don't want them to be, they should be more than just stuck on PSVR1.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, and I don't think anyone is going to disagree with you when you say that the first party stuff is super important. I mean, just again, they weren't the biggest games of all time. Like Blood and Truth was like a 4 or 5 hour like blockbuster Hollywood action movie, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Everybody's Golf didn't have any multiplayer support, right? And so there's all these little things, but like just get them over here. Like this is ridiculous. But there's all these other games that, like, when I was going through the PlayStation store just to kind of like jog my memory a little bit, and I was just like, man, I want to play Paranormal Activity again. That game like just had like some amazing production values for what was a relatively short horror game. Yeah, indie game. Like the I Expect You to Die games, I cannot believe are not on PSVR2 yet, including the third one, which isn't even on PSVR1. Operencia, which I know you loved. How great would that be if it was just actually the flat screen version in VR, right? Like no downgraded visuals. To the Top, which I harassed Dan about constantly. Fracked, Catch and Release, Transference. I mean, the list is endless. The Wes always refers to the PSVR1 catalog as one of the best libraries of VR games ever. And I think when you start looking at it, making these lists of exclusives and games that like just didn't make it everywhere, or just, good games, period, even if they did make it other places, there's a ton of them. It took a little while for us to get them, but over the course of 6 years, we got a ton of amazing games.
Yeah. Luckily, some of these games are available, like at best on Steam, but that's not enough. VR is too small right now, and they need to be preserved as much as possible. Because there's about 10% of that PSVR2 library or PSVR1 library that is like essential. Bless you.
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button, so I had to drag the volume button. It's coming, I can feel it. Damien Monica Del Wander with the $10 tip. What's up, Damien? Says, Arken Age, overwhelmed. First hour did not understand shit. Dude, I was right there with you. I didn't understand shit for the first hour. And then 10 hours later, I was like, I still don't think I know what happened in this story. Once everything started to click, bruh, the music, the gameplay, never should have doubted you. Top 3 now. Thanks for the review. Was that your Dennis Nedry? Is that what that was?
Yeah, I guess, or the Matembe Matumbo, Kembe Matumbo. No, no, no.
Oh man,
Um,
dude, Arken
yeah,
Age, fucking for real, dude. Like, I mean, just unbelievable. Like the last time we did a Gamescast was you and me last week. We were only able to talk about our first impressions, but I mean, like, I don't know, man. Like outside of a little, could use a little more variety as far as the biomes go. But other than that, man, like, what an amazing game. What an amazing game.
yeah, absolutely. Great way to start the year, that's for sure. Um,
Yeah.
Looking, I know people are still getting caught up. We had a big wave of games recently, and some people are still working on Metro and Behemoth, and not everybody has the time to just get through everything day one. And to me, yeah, I mean, but Arken Age is such a special game. It just feels like the of of the big three, it was kind of like more polished and more complete than all three of those.
Yeah.
And just, yeah, I mean, they poured their hearts and souls into this game, and it's so polished and just really, really fun. And it lasts a lot longer than Shadow Legend did, because that was the biggest problem with Shadow Legend. Was like, it was like, yeah, 3 hours and you're done. You'll get a lot more time out of this one. It's not like infinitely replayable, because it does kind of like run out of stuff to do, but it gives you a lot of stuff to do for like 15-20 hours.
Yeah.
And that's all you need, man.
Well,
I'm actually
and then you actually get to take your weapons over and play a harder difficulty on New Game Plus. It's like
yes.
right? Like these are the things we've been asking other developers to give us, and Vitruvius is the only ones like saying, hey, well, not only do we have that, we've got that shit at launch, so don't worry.
Yeah, man. Fantastic game. I'd like to see. I'm hoping to see the numbers on the. We sometimes use like the rating system on PSN to kind of gauge like how a game is doing sales wise, because we've received lots of info from developers in the past saying that, like, there is like a calculation to kind of use on it, but it is pretty accurate as to like to gauge whether a game is doing well or not. And last time I checked, it's at 219 ratings. That's
Decent.
lower. That's okay, but that's lower than what I would expect a game of this caliber to be.
Yeah.
A lot of the times around launch, some of these big hitter games, they're sitting at like 500, 700. So I think we had a conversation about this last week. Somebody had asked about it, about like, are they doing a great job with the marketing on this? And this was kind of my worry. Is like, I think the only problem Arken Age has is just exposure, enough exposure. I don't think it's getting enough at this time, because those numbers, while okay, those are lower than what I would expect for a game of this quality and caliber. And it's disheartening to me, to the whole VR scene, when a game like this, is not like crushing it. This game should be like number one on the charts. And this is why we kind of find ourselves moving backwards sometimes in the VR space, because a game like this should be taking off. Everybody should be talking about it. Everybody should be playing it and be excited. And so this is my worry. This is like, I don't want this to become another like Song in the Smoke situation, or one where it's like, this game is really good, but we were wrong about like how much people are going to actually be interested in it on like a larger scale.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been our concern since it was first announced. Is like it just doesn't have any kind of name recognition behind it. Like Metro's going to sell, Batman's going to sell, the Alien is going to sell, right? It's got name recognition. You need some kind of name recognition, and they're building an IP from scratch. Like this isn't even Shadow Legend 2. You know what I mean? Like they're not even building off of that.
Yeah.
what they have to build off of is people remembering that Shadow Legend was this game by Vitruvius, and oh man, remember how good Shadow Legend was, and this is their next game. And like, I don't know, man, like most people don't have that kind of memory to remember developers' names and the pedigree that they have. So I do hope people are listening, but I do get frustrated, because we jump up and down and scream and yell about our favorite games on platforms and how great things are. And hey, this is really moving VR forward. And I do think that that Arken Age pushes VR forward in so many ways. But the number of people that are actually playing it is yet to be seen.
Yeah. Phil Yarn, excuse me, says,
I just copied and pasted Phil Yarn's comment into my run a show. That was amazing.
"Oh, really?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
He says, "I knew nothing of this game before all the great reviews. No cap." And
Oh shit! I copied your other comment. Apparently, Phil Yarn is our third host on today's show. He also says, "Should I get Arken Age on PC or PSVR2 with the Pro? Get it
PSVR2.
on the Pro, and here's why: A, it looks fucking amazing, right? It already looks amazing on the OG PS5, but it looks even better. I mostly played it in performance mode for the higher frame rates, and it looks even better on the Pro. The resolution is amazing, but honestly, the real reason, the thing that goes less noticed during these conversations, is they killed it with the adaptive trigger support. They killed it with the haptic feedback. They killed it with the headset rumble. And it's like, these are the things that just make the game so much more immersive on PSVR2 specifically. So that's the reason. But yeah, obviously it's going to look beautiful as well.
Yeah. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Really, what I recommend, this isn't going to be the case for every game, but as somebody that's been playing on PCVR for about a year now, so I can actually speak on this a little bit. Most games that come out that are multi-platform, most of them usually end up being best on PSVR2 on PS5. Mainly because, like you said, a lot of the features, especially if it has eye-tracked foveated rendering, it's going to look amazing. But then you get the haptics, adaptive triggers, and headset rumble, which are just like next level features. Now, I can understand for some games, some may not run in like reprojection on PC, so there is that is something to take into account if you just want the best possible experience. But in most cases, I just play. The only stuff I play on PC is stuff that I can't play on PS5. That's, to me, the big advantage.
Well, AJ, we're definitely going to be paying close attention to the sales charts next month to see where Arken Age falls on the top 10 sales charts that PlayStation publishes all the time. However, we didn't do this last week because, man, I don't even know what happened last week. we kind of forgot. Like, you reminded me, and then like I still fucking ignored it. But the PlayStation December downloads came out, and I thought we should probably take a look at these and see what's going on. Really interesting, first and foremost, before we can get to the PSVR2 games, to see that Phasmophobia fell from the first place all the way down to, is that 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, what is that? Yeah, the PS5 games list. So it's down to 7th. Still selling really well, but down from 1 to 7. So let's get all the way down to PSVR2 games, AJ, and take it from the bottom. We'll go with the North American stuff and see if there's any big oddities when it comes to comparing it with the UK stuff or the European stuff. But down number 10 is the Arizona Sunshine remake, which is interesting. Creed Rise to Glory, holding on. Arizona Sunshine 2. Definitely a month for Arizona Sunshine games, man. People.
Yeah, another one, because December they had 3 of their Vertigo games had 3 of their games on there too.
Right, because they had Metro on there as well, right?
Yep, and they do this month as well. So
Pretty
they're doing
crazy.
it they're getting it done in the sales department.
Dude, Swordsman VR, I feel like that just like sits on the top 10 sales charts and never leaves. Same with Pavlov.
I feel like Swordsman disappeared for a while and then finally popped back up again when people got new PSVRs. I feel like
you got to run out of people
whenever
to sell
that
to
game,
eventually.
Whenever Swordsman VR is there, it's usually a good sign that people are buying PSVR, like new PSVRs. That and Beat Saber.
Beat Saber is always there.
True.
I guess people are always buying new PSVR2s. We got Metro Awakening at number, was that 5? Which is good. Glad it's holding on. Metro was a lot of fun. Among
Loved it.
Us, Among Us VR number 4. Um, is this is this sort of like the gorilla tag phenomenon where it's like it
Yeah. This is
kind of
it seems like Among Us is also here every month. It's almost become like the new job simulator.
yeah 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 no job simulator.
I know
Okay.
because Among Us has replaced it.
But except it is there. It is there, number 9 in EU. So we can't
Oh,
quite get rid of Job Sim altogether.
dang it. This
Yeah.
close. Job Sim's a good game. I'm not going to bash on it.
No, it's fine. It's good. Uh, Behemoth made it to number 3 in the States, number 4 in Europe, which is great, man. Which is great. Those guys are putting a lot of work into that game. What a crappy launch that they had. A lot of
Launch day, yeah.
yeah, but they're getting stuff ironed out, and they're just still adding to it. Um, really curious, dude, to see what they do with the arena mode, because that seems like where their efforts are going to be for the foreseeable future. And arena mode, I feel like just has so much potential that hasn't been explored. Like, eh, well, one of the things that Swordsman is missing, that people are looking forward to Blade and Sorcery for, is a lot more verticality in the arenas. You can climb and whatever, and that's already baked into Behemoth. Why isn't there more like climbing, and why aren't we using all those traps that they established in the campaign? Like, we pull the barrage of rocks over onto your enemies. Like, this is all stuff that should be in the one arena that we have. So hopefully they lean really heavily into all that stuff in the next arenas that they add.
Yeah, I don't know. I really liked Trials mode on Saints and Sinners, but this this has potential because the gameplay is fun. Like
Yeah.
I like the hand-to-hand combat in Behemoth. Um, but I feel like they may need like more depth of everything basically for it to work.
Yeah.
It needs to have a fun game loop and it needs a lot more depth of weapons and items and things to swing on and traps that you can use, and they can throw all that in there, which is a lot of work. It can work, but I don't know. As it is right now, it's just yeah, it's just kind of like a wave arena combat thing.
Yeah, and what really sucks for Behemoth is that Arken Age came out, and in my opinion, at least, like just fucking nailed the combat better than even Behemoth did.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like
Deeper,
I would
more varied
rather be,
weapons.
I would rather be doing an arena mode in Arken Age than in Behemoth.
Well, I think it kind of almost already has one because you can deploy those
Yeah, it does.
enemies at those terminals, and yeah, and it's better. It's already better.
Yeah,
The web, and you can change up the weapons. You can introduce new items. There's different enemy types you can change. Like it's already better. So yeah, I think with Behemoth, the best thing they can do is expand the biomes and behemoths, and that's the best way to keep that game going. Add some new weapons too.
yeah, yeah. Um, Alien Rogue Incursion hits number 2 here in the
Nice.
States. It's number 1 in Europe. That's it, man. Like the name is selling it. Like, not that it's a bad game. It's a good game. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think you were way higher on it than I was, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I think now that the dust has settled, I still give it like an 8 to 8.5. Um, because as a huge lifelong Alien fan, it gave me an amazing Alien VR experience. And I've gone on it about it a billion times, so I'm not going to. I do look forward to them updating the spawn thing with the xenomorphs, because I feel like they do that, and this game, you know, definitely bumps up into the higher eights. But no, for what just even as is, like I loved Alien. It was such. I love I love Alien, and I love Alien in VR. I've played three or four different versions of it now with like Isolation, Fireteam Elite, and now Rogue Incursion, and I've loved all three of them.
yeah, I think there's a lot of great stuff happening in Rogue Incursion. If they could clean it up from a technical standpoint, if they could, not that I think they can snap their fingers and make it run at 90 native suddenly, right? But like, but if they could fix the anti-aliasing and really smooth out the frame rate a little bit, I think I would, I would enjoy being in that world a lot more. However, again, it's a really fun game, and so I don't mean to take anything away from it. Great I'm glad it's here, and I'm glad it made its number 2 here. But nothing can fucking dethrone Beat Saber apparently. So that's what number 1 is, dude. And the Metallica pack came out, when was it, last month? That must have
Yes.
helped.
That gave it a big boost, I'm sure. I mean, Beat Saber you can always count on being in the top 10, but the Metallica pack was huge. It got me playing it again.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, it's an awesome game. Like I got no hate towards Beat Saber. I still think it's the best arcade VR game there is.
Yeah. Listen, yeah, Beat Saber left my life for a little bit, but it is 100% back, and I love it, man. I love it. Very, very happy. The Metallica pack got me playing a lot more. It's a good time.
Ooh, yeah.
Jeff Purdue in the chat says, "What has better combat, Legendary Tales or Arken Age?" I'll let you answer first, AJ.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. So I think.
Do you want me to answer first? Because I got this shit covered.
No, because you're gonna say the opposite of me. I don't really know. I do think that the combat in Arken Age is more fun in many ways, but I think that the depth and the loot and everything else like makes the combat really fun and rewarding in Legendary Tales as well. Like I love the combat in it. I think if you're just overall looking at like fun factor, I might have to say Arken Age, but like from a technical design, from depth and the amount of weapons that there are, like it's Legendary Tales by like a mile, because dude, there's just so many options for combat. It's basically got like Diablo loot and nothing else. I don't know of a single other game that even comes close to having like a Diablo amount of loot in it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's 100% the correct answer. If there is a correct answer, it's that Legendary Tales nails the Diablo aspect of things. They nail the mechanics and the loot. They give you so much stuff. You're constantly checking your inventory, seeing if you have a better weapon, is if there's something that you should be focused on that you're not, constantly changing out your armor, all of that. And so like that's really great. And the combat's good. It's really good. I think it like raised the bar for combat in VR when it came out like last year, right? But then Arken Age comes along and evolves the formula even more. I think like just everything just feels right in that game. I think the characters react a little bit better when you hit them, and it just feels more natural to me than Legendary Tales did. But that's not a slight against Legendary Tales. You know, when we're living in this time period that we're like the things are constantly evolving. Like no one has nailed combat yet, right? No one has absolutely 100% killed it. Although Arken Age is about as close as I've seen to it, and hopefully every game that comes out is just going to build upon what the last game did, and take it a step further. And that's exactly what Arken Age did. They built upon what Swordsman had done and what Legendary Tales had done and what they had done with Shadow Legend, and really, came to as close to perfecting it as I've seen so far.
Yeah, but I do love just how polished and fun Arken Age, and it introduces like weapons that I've never seen before.
Yeah,
like I don't know if those have existed in other games. I tried Googling it, I didn't find it anywhere, and I'm like, this is the kind of stuff that like put like Half-Life Alyx on the map, or Half-Life, I mean, on the map with like bringing the gravity. I think they invented the gravity gun, right? I want to say, but it just random. That's what I'm saying. I don't
want to say.
like random things like that, like new and innovative things. Yeah, like it, and yeah, it's so much fun. It doesn't have the depth of Legendary Tales, not as replayable, but it does have the slight edge on just pure fun factor. I like how chaotic it is because of the freedom that it gives you. So you can almost approach levels like in a sandbox way and try out different weapon combinations and things like that.
Yeah. AJ, there's been a lot of fuss recently about something that Shuhei Yoshida said about PlayStation VR2. I was actually really surprised to see people quoting him and essentially misquoting him or taking what he said out of context. And so I figured,
Are you surprised, Brian?
no, I'm not even slightly surprised, AJ. I've lived in this world for 45 years. Nothing surprises me anymore. It's all fucking nonsense, all of it. But David Heaney wrote an article on Upload VR, basically outlining the story. And the headline is Sony's Shuhei Yoshida, quote, "I'm sorry I was wrong about PlayStation VR2." This all comes from Shu being on the Kind of Funny GAMESCAST, right? And let's jump down to this part in the article. He says, on Thursday, Yoshida appeared on the Kind of Funny GAMESCAST for a 2-hour interview. AJ, I know we just started, but I need a quick little aside here. We need to have Shuhei Yoshida on PSVR GamesCast Live, and then we can really talk about VR, right? And have an actual conversation about VR, and not have him feel shamed by the people he's talking to.
Yeah, obviously he's got close ties to, Greg Miller from the podcast Beyond Days and After and everything, and yeah, and obviously for those who don't know, Shuhei Yoshida was former president of PlayStation or Sony Interactive Entertainment. Been with PlayStation for 31 years, is a huge reason for a lot of their creative success, and also absolutely destroyed Xbox one day, the entire Xbox brand, with a 10-second video during E3 on how to share games. If you missed all that, anyways, long story short, he's a big deal. He cares a lot about VR and innovation and creativity in video games, which is why we, really look up to him and have always been inspired by him, because he was at the helm, leading the charge in a way. And he, as of last week, I believe, rode off into the sunset and departed ways with Sony Interactive Entertainment, which then prompted this interview with Greg Miller, and it was a really good interview overall.
Oh, did you watch the whole thing?
Not the whole thing. I got a little bit left, but yeah, it was pretty good. It's just nice, he doesn't have the shackles of not, how Sony are. Like, you can't say anything bad, or else you're blacklisted for life, like us. Even if you're just being, honest, and trying to be fair. Yeah, but understandably so. But yeah, so he basically, Greg, it comes up in conversation. Greg asks him about PSVR2, and he goes, what happened with PSVR2? And Shuhei just kind of laughs. He's like, and he says, he starts comparing to when they first announced PSVR1, because Shuhei was basically all but spearheading the whole PSVR1 movement, and PlayStation getting into VR. And he was referring to those days, and they talked about how their expectations were that, PSVR1 was a lot like the PS1, and then PSVR2 was going to be his hope, his intention was to have PSVR2 be like the PS2. Obviously that didn't happen. And that's basically what he said, and what everyone's quoting is that he said at one point, "I'm sorry that PSVR2 did not become PS2."
Right. Yes, he said, "I'm sorry I was wrong. PSVR2 didn't become PS2." And they didn't get real deep into that. I feel like that's a really interesting thing to say. And I think if no one understands what that comment means, then let's explain it to you. Because PlayStation 2 was revolutionary. PlayStation 2, yes, PlayStation 1 got Sony into the gaming space. And PlayStation became this massive disruptor in a space that Sega and Nintendo had dominated for so long. And so they get into the game and everything changes. But then PlayStation 2 was, just a completely different beast, completely different animal, where people who didn't even care about gaming were buying PlayStation 2 to see what this was all about. The marketing behind it was just amazing. It was on the cover of things like Newsweek, if I remember correctly. It was
It also it was a DVD player that played games. Like you could get it
right.
you could get it for cheaper than most DVD players, Brian.
Yeah.
And then it was also a console.
Right. And it was just breaking down these barriers that we hadn't seen before. People who were never talking about games. It was on the news, and it just sold like crazy. So it was really getting more people into gaming than ever before. And yeah, like you said, it was a Trojan horse because of its DVD capabilities. So people were
Yep.
buying it as a DVD player, and realizing they were like, oh, I've I've got this amazing game system sitting below my TV. Maybe we should buy some games for it.
Yeah, Twisted Metal Black. What is this? This looks amazing.
And so that's what she was referring to when he said, "I'm sorry that PSVR2 didn't become PlayStation 2," meaning
Yeah.
it didn't grab all of these people who didn't believe in VR. It didn't grab all these people who either played traditional games or weren't gamers, and then convince them to try VR or say, "Hey, this is a way forward. This is something that I should be excited about." Uh, it didn't, and I love his enthusiasm about it, man. I love that he once thought that it could be a PlayStation 2, because it echoes so many of the thoughts that I had about PSVR 2. When we first started hearing about hybrid games, and we're like, oh, this is it, man. This is how it's going to work. They're going to make these games for the flat screen, and they're going to bring them into VR, and then suddenly you realize that you own 20 PSVR 2 games because you've just been buying flat screen games for your PlayStation 5. And so it did seem like for a second there, early on when we first started hearing about, eye track foveated rendering and how it's going to cut down the processing power and how it's not going to be, as expensive as it was to, get these games running in 4K VR. So it seemed like all the signals were there and they seemed like the messaging was right. And then this kind of didn't happen. Right, the launch was kind of all over the place. People, there was some really bad messaging that Sony wasn't counteracting or defending themselves against. So many people were saying, "Oh, it's just a bunch of ports of PSVR 1 games," or "These are just games that have been on the Quest already," or "These are just games that," right? And it just did not go down well. And then, of course, the reprojection issue. I mean, there's all these little things that sort of got in the way. Along with the $550 price tag, right? There's a million little things that all added up to ensure that this was not going to be the next PlayStation 2, that this was not going to be the game-changing moment in VR history. So I don't think this is a surprise. This should not have been a surprise to hear him say this, to speak honestly about PlayStation VR 2, right? It didn't move the needle like they thought it would.
Yeah, it was kind of sad to hear him say stuff like, "Can we move on?" I was like, come on, no, talk about it a little bit, because we like to hear about some things, and we like to hear kind of what happens behind the scenes. But I can understand from a professional standpoint not wanting to give away too much. We obviously not knowing what those factors are as well. But the bottom line is that PSVR 2 at launch at least has not done or performed as well as he had hoped. And but here's the thing, man. Shu has nothing to be sorry about, because they still delivered to us a pretty freaking amazing headset. And PSVR 2, while didn't become an overnight success, and has had its fair share of issues, things have improved, and it doesn't seem like Sony is stopping support anytime soon completely. And yeah, it's brought so many awesome new things to us. But I think it does show that, not being backwards compatible is one thing, but not, that proved to hurt the launch a lot more than expected, because that's something that people talk about every single year. But I do think we're at a point where it is time to start kind of integrating backwards compatibility into each gen. It is becoming a big selling point. It's no longer just the vocal minority talking about these things. It's like, no, these are actually turning into the majority of people and how they feel, and it's starting to actually show with sales and results. And
Right.
but yeah, the no PC support at launch was kind of a small thing. There was a thing that affected, and then the no backwards compatibility. But then on top of that, not releasing remasters of some of these games is something I will never understand. The fact
Yeah.
that they spent all this money on like investing in like Crossfire Sierra Squad. I love Synapse, but the fact that they like, invested in, all the money into that, and they did Astrobot without a VR mode consideration, and then didn't bring all this, just all these issues, kind of led to this. But and then on top of this, you've got Meta, who is owning the VR market space right now, and they're in a different situation because they can afford to take a loss on all this stuff, and so they're just basically able to just lose like millions of dollars and that be fine because they have so much money. Sony doesn't have that position, so they've been in a tough position, and it was coupled with a lot of bad choices, but also this thing, PSVR2, was planned in 2016. Shuhei was removed from head of the president in 2019, when it was replaced by Herman Holst. And they talked about this in the interview as well, where he was talking about how he basically thinks that he got removed because he didn't really want to go with the live service thing. And so, unfortunately, man, it's just the business becomes the bottom line, and that's kind of what this generation kind of turned into. Was it's happened to the music industry, where music industry is like practically dead. The movie industry is awful right now, like so bad. And like, what was next? Where's the next best place to find your entertainment? It was video games, and it's been making money. And now it just seems like, I was having this conversation with Rypop earlier, that I fear the day. I think it's inevitable, and I hope that there's gamers and companies and developers fight back from this. But at the end of the day, like, a lot of this stuff gets ruled by money, and I don't want to see games, the thing I love, the entertainment that I love the most, go the same way as music and movie industry did, because it would be terrible. But I think this was kind of a glimpse of what that reality looks like, of where them trying to just focus on what's going to make the most money versus, the Shuhei days of what's something freaking awesome that we can do that's innovative and fun and creative and people are going to love. And yeah, that's basically what established that core PlayStation base really to the max at the end of the PS3 and all of PS4 gen. And yeah, it's a shame that they ever took them off the head of PlayStation. Sony owes Shuhei an apology, if anything. He doesn't owe us shit. He's done so much for us.
Yeah, listen, hashtag Shuhei was right. But I do think that, but I do think it's important to like, to see where we are right now, and see like that a lot of mistakes have been made. That's fine, right? A lot of mistakes have been made. Sony really, screwed up the last few years. But what's good about all this, AJ, is not only did they learn a hard lesson, but also that look where we're heading, right? PSVR2 just plugs straight in USB-C cable. We're no longer stuck with light tracking and sort of Frankensteining together a VR headset, right? It's something that just works, and it's one of the best headsets VR has ever seen. And it's and as time goes on, that can become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to manufacture, right? So maybe that $350 price tag will eventually be the price tag. And then when PlayStation 6 comes out and we get PSVR 3, here's what I'm thinking. And I think this is what Meta proved. What Meta proved is that people want cheap. They want a cheap headset. They don't care if it's not great. They just want it to be cheap, right? And so when we get to PSVR 3, when we get to PlayStation 6, I really think that we can have a very similar headset to PSVR 2, but the costs are going to come way down over the course of the next 5 or 6 years. Imagine them releasing a $200 headset that's same capabilities as the one we have now, maybe like slightly better resolution, maybe no more Fresnel lenses, whatever, right? Just minor changes. And they'll be able to launch that thing at $200, right? Alongside their $600 console. That is suddenly where everybody wants it to be. And there's no reason for things not to be backwards compatible. So we're going to get the full breadth of the PSVR 2 games that we had on PlayStation 5, and they're all going to work on PlayStation 6 and PSVR 3, and it's all just going to work. right? And so we won't complain about backwards compatibility anymore. Hopefully by then Sony will have brought all those first party games over. We'll see. And so the future, I think, is really bright, even though we're kind of stuck in this weird doldrums of an era where like things kind of all this mismanagement happened. I think if she was still in charge, we probably would have had more first party PSVR2 games already. Whether they were out or announced, I think we would have seen more of that because he was so passionate about VR.
Bro, Dreams got VR support. Dreams. like yeah, you're goddamn right. Everything would have had like way more support. And that's again, that was part of the problem with that leadership, which this whole live service push, which I'm thankful it blew up in their face. It sucks that, we were kind of, it almost feels like skipping a generation with like first party Sony stuff, because now they've basically hit the reset button on everything. But I think in the long run, it could potentially be better than where it was headed, because a generation full of, hit or miss live service games would not be good. It's just not what they built the brand up on. That's not what it was designed for. And people like single player story driven games that are, cinematic and a great experience and creative gameplay that's fun. Yeah, I don't know.
Gen Z German Game Cat Clausen, hope I got that right, in the chat said PSVR2 doesn't do good for Sony. It's just true. It's not true. They've actually made a massive profit on every single PSVR2 headset sold. And don't forget that they're making a 30% cut on every single third-party game that's being sold for PSVR2. And games are selling really well on PSVR2 comparatively. So my guess is that they've absolutely made their R&D money back, and they're making their money on every headset that's being sold, and just a ton of money on games. So I mean, it doesn't do good for Sony. It probably doesn't do great for Sony, but right? Comparatively,
yeah, it does. It probably just does okay. Probably nowhere near the amount that they are wanting, but yeah, I mean, a lot of that's on them and their decision making and what they decided to, they didn't bring new people into VR with PSVR2. Not a lot of new people at first. I mean, because it's so expensive, and then they also just failed to retain the existing player base. So they pretty much failed the launch pretty hard. And what's carrying it now is that it's just still a really good piece of hardware, and there's still really good games coming out for it. And that's basically what's kept it alive. And now, as you see, like it gets like a price cut, and there was a huge increase of players.
Big time.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, it's in a weird place right now, but I mean, yeah, we kind of have to wait and see what happens. But there's a lot of games as is, and there's some really, really good ones, including a AAA game coming up. That's pretty cool. So it was a mistake on their part to kind of hit the reset button and just start from scratch again. I think that was a big mistake.
I think they did what they had to do, unfortunately. And, obviously I think they would have liked to be able to carry all that stuff over. But again, I do think that like when we see PSVR3 on PS6, like it's just going to be like, yeah, of course all that stuff works. Right. And hopefully over the next, however many years it is, 5 years, we see, all of these PSVR1 games get ported over. And so eventually the problem fixes itself. Right. But it's a little too late. I do think that, obviously we all wanted this to be the generation that pushed VR so forward, like that made it mainstream. Yeah. And as much as we wanted it to happen, and even if, I do have to wonder, even if Sony did everything right, where would we be? Awesome Tatum in the chat says it's fun to think about if the PSVR 2 would have launched at $350 like the Black Friday sales. Where would we be right now if that was the case? Even if Sony did everything right. It's easy to pick apart their strategy and pick apart their lack of strategy and go, what the fuck was it? Why did this happen? Right? It's fun to do that. But at the same time, I don't know if it would have been some massive success if it launched at the right price with backwards compatibility, with no reprojection issues. I just don't know.
I think it possibly could, because you would have carried over the existing 5 million, probably was more like 7 million by the end
Maybe.
of the thing. I think you would have carried more of that over, um, and also brought in more new people. And so I think if they got everything right, it definitely would have moved things forward. Maybe not be like you said, maybe a PSVR wouldn't be in every single household, but I do think it would still have pushed VR forward, because as you can see, our ecosystem here, even though is like pretty much the smallest, or one of the, you're way smaller compared to Quest, which is basically the only other existing ecosystem, games still manage to sell better on PSVR2. We've seen this. We've seen several developers come out and talk about this. Swordsman, Max Mustard, a couple other ones. Like, so just because that headset is selling more doesn't mean that your game is gonna, or more games are selling over there too. It's two completely different audiences, for the most part. And ours is a core gamer audience, so we care about the basic things that gamers like, and we are willing to shell out, $30-$40 for a new game every time it drops, if it's what we wanted. But I do think it would have pushed things forward, with some different decision making, for sure.
Bambina Ramos in the chat says if it was a little cheaper, had backwards compatibility, and they'd actually went all in on the hybrid strategy, it would have done a lot better. Makes me wonder why they didn't go all in on the hybrid strategy. AJ, I think I think it's a great idea in concept, and then executing it is very hard and more time consuming and expensive than anybody would have guessed. So, because otherwise, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you do it? And so that's so. If anybody doesn't know, one of the many reasons that I got blacklisted by Sony was because we talked about their hybrid strategy before they were ready to talk about it publicly, and we also told people how far away PSVR2 really was. We gave the estimated launch date when people were thinking that it was about to launch. We were like, it's still a year and a half away. So those are the reasons that we got blacklisted by Sony. And it makes sense now, right? Because the hybrid strategy didn't pan out. Right, they've got a couple of games that, like Gran Turismo and Resident Evil Village and RE4 Remake. These are great examples of the hybrid strategy, but like it just wasn't feasible to do at a high level the way that I think PSVR2 gamers would have liked. And so it's like, of course they're fucking mad, right? Because they're like, guys, it didn't fucking work out. We don't want people thinking this is our strategy when clearly we weren't able to accomplish it, right? It's great on paper, not so great in execution.
Yeah. And again, I point the finger at the leadership. I don't think this stuff would have happened if Shuhei and Sean Layden were still at the head of PlayStation. They take more risks, but they also get like way more rewards. I mean, there's a reason why PS4 sold, 120 million something. But yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I don't think the strategy that they had was the absolute worst. Like, I do think there were some good ideas with the strategy that they had for launch. Like, give them Resident Evil Village, give them Gran Turismo 7. Here's a first party game, made by this studio that they thought was going to be good, but and then here's a bunch of indies. And then, like, we're going to also invest into some smaller, projects, some smaller games, make Synapse, Crossfire, Sierra Squad, things like that. And I think there were some good ideas. It just wasn't good enough, or it was not nearly good enough. Even just for selling just the headset, at launch, they needed to say it was backwards compatible or every game is playable. They needed to come out and say hybrid games. They needed to and deliver a couple more of those. Have London studio. This is the problem, is all their resources were working on live service games. That's the problem.
And how many of those were also going to be playable on PSVR 2? How many of those would have been a hybrid game? There's a rumor that one of those games was a Twisted Metal game.
Right.
We speculated many times about how perfect Twisted Metal would have been in VR and making that a hybrid live service game. I mean, we might have lost out on a great game because of because the live service strategy didn't work out.
Yeah, it's it's all bad. But again,
It's all bad.
it's telling me that I lost out on a Twisted Metal VR game is about the biggest sword you can take and shove into my heart that you can.
It's all bad.
It's all bad. But again, you know, this is just the cycle of the gaming industry sometimes, and there's times where things aren't so great, there's times where things are better, there's times where things are amazing. And I have no doubt that one day, like, gaming will get back to that, like, feeling like a golden era of gaming. And I hope to see, you know, I would love to see it with Sony. But we got a long way to go because they basically have started from scratch again. They've got all new leadership and new from top to bottom, new things. That all the projects we just saw got canceled. You know, stuff like Concord and all these other unannounced live service games just got scrapped, which I think is in the long run better. But yeah, games take years to develop, so it feels like we're gonna have to wait years before we start seeing, you know, the results of the changes happening right now.
Speaking of taking years to develop, Mark in the chat with a $5 tip says, I believe Aces of Thunder will sell headsets to the amount of people who want that sim/arcade experience in VR, like Ace Combat. Yeah, I think maybe you're onto something there. Oh, why did that happen?
Yeah, if the like I said, the thing is that a game like Arken Age should really be selling some headsets, but it's going to matter a little bit on the marketing. And yeah, Aces of Thunder, obviously that is another like potential system seller. I've had comments of people saying, I bought a PSVR2 because of Aces of Thunder, and it's been delayed forever. And I'm like, well, they didn't actually ever give us a release date. Like that. No. People are kind of confusing it being actually like announced to come out with a leak from a German PS blog that accidentally happened. That is how we found out about the game's existence to begin with.
Yeah, over on Facebook, the team at Gaijin Entertainment did say at some point, "Hey, we're slated to get this game out end of 2024, right?" And they had to go back on that, right? It's not like it got delayed like 1,000 times. They said, "Hey, we didn't make it. We want this game to be great when it comes out." Every game is delayed nowadays. Like, why should this be any different? And so the fact that it's, you know, this was they were hoping to get it out the end of 2024, and we're at the very beginning of 2025, and it should be out within a few months. Like, this is not the worst delay we've ever seen, right? And plus we already know it's like they're really working to make this thing great. You know, like the amount of detail we've seen on the ground, the amount of the different game modes that they've shown off, the fact that there's single player missions and there weren't before. That's running at 90 native. I mean, like everything sounds really good right now, and so give them all the time they need to make sure that when it comes out, it's great.
Yeah, and and I've been totally. Oh, Looper points out. No, I think the German leak had Project Wingman. Okay, it probably was that. I thought it was. Where did Aces of Thunder pop up then? You said it a second ago, but I forgot.
Oh, they posted on their Facebook account. The Gaijin Entertainment posted on their Facebook account, saying it was one of the only places they said, "Hey, the game's coming out late 2024." Right? They actually they thought it was coming out.
Okay.
But yeah, it's never been in like a trailer or anything like that. They've never like made some major announcement. So, you know, people harass developers constantly and say, "When's your game coming out? When's your game coming out? When's your game coming out?" And then they tell you and they don't make it, right? It's like, well, fucking stop asking.
Yeah, it is funny. I do see everything that gets announced. People go PSVR2 version. I just see them just bombarded. I think it's like
which is great.
The Toast Interactive people, they're like losing their minds from the amount of wins. Richie's Plank is coming to. Somebody was asking about PSVR1 games coming to PSVR2. Richie's Plank. There's one. Coming. Yep. Dude,
that's the moneymaker at Toast. Who would have thought, right? They got this awesome, like, Astrobot, clone type game with Max Mustard. But the moneymaker is Richie's Plank experience. Like, no offense to anyone who loves it or anyone that's buying it in 2025. but who's still buying Richie's Plank Experience in 2025? Right? It's just confusing. It's the only game you need to bring an accessory to. You need to put you need to put a 2x4 down in your living room to make it really work.
It does seem like the consumers, like with a lot of VR stuff, the consumers play like a lot of catching up.
Mm-hmm.
That's why stuff like Beat Saber, Swordsman, maybe Job Simulator. It's kind of why these are always topping the charts, because it does just seem like these are where people find out. A lot of people don't even know jack shit about VR, so you got to start somewhere, and it just seems like these are the recurring ones that we see that are associated with people learning about VR for the first time, and that's why those end up being the first thing. But AJ, more power to them.
But like Beat Saber is awesome and Job Simulator is awesome, and it's like I've just never heard anybody say Richie's Plank Experience. You've got to get it, right? And like that's mean. I haven't. They've been updating this game constantly for the last like decade, so I'm sure it's way better now. And
there are insanely viral videos and tweets and TikToks and shorts and YouTube videos that still circulate to this day. I literally still see the same video of this poor guy who is like wife, girlfriend, something kicks him off the board while playing Richie's Plank Experience.
Oh my God.
And he has just about a heart attack. It's just that's why people know, man, because that's what's going around on TikTok to everybody and social media, and that's where they're seeing these things. That's where people are getting their information from. There's no more of these, like, there's not as many of these expos, E3's dead. So the landscape has changed dramatically, and this is what people are seeing to kind of get them in the door.
Yeah. AJ, but I love that we're like 98% of the way through the show, and we're like, oh, we should probably talk about the thing in the thumbnail now.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about No More Rainbows.
All I gotta say before we move on to No More Rainbows is Shuhei, thank you for your service. Thank you for all that you've done to us for 31 years. And you're a legend, and we're gonna keep fighting this VR fight for you. So you sit back, enjoy, relax, and we'll do our best to keep fighting the good fight, brother.
Well said. Now we can talk about No More Rainbows. No More Rainbows stealth dropped, as far as I'm concerned, on the PlayStation Store Thursday, was it? It's the same day as Arken Age, which that was great. Great idea there, guys. Dude, I'd heard a lot about No More Rainbows over the last year or so, because people, when Stilt came to PSVR2, people kept saying, oh, this is like No More Rainbows, except better, right? It's the kind of game where like you kind of walk on your hands a little bit, and it's very gorilla tag, and it's like execution in terms of like, you don't push forward on an analog stick to move around. You're doing one of these things, and you're like this big demon beast thing, and you're like kind of comping around, and if you want to jump, you have to thrust yourself off the ground, right? That's sort of the crux of the gameplay. It's a lot of platforming elements, it's a lot of collectathon elements, but damn, dude, after playing Stilt, like the locomotion in this game does not feel great immediately. Stilt feels like that was really refined, and visually, like, what's going on in this game? It's a very simple game visually. Why isn't this running like 120 frames native? Why isn't this running at max resolution? Like, it just kind of, for a game that's so much about, these bursts of colors, it doesn't seem like a very colorful game when you're in the headset. I just think it just doesn't look all that great. So first impressions, man, were not overwhelmingly positive.
Interesting. It's not native frame rate. I thought it looked crystal clear in the headset, and I thought it looked really colorful.
Oh wow. Okay. I mean, like, yeah, I just didn't think for a game that was about rainbows. I didn't think it looked very colorful, and
definitely not like impressive or anything like blow me away, but it just looked like your typical kind of cartoon colorful game.
Yeah, I mean, it was for me. I hate using terms like this because it sounds so pejorative, but I was like, yeah, this is what this game would have looked like on PSVR1. Because I got in the overall resolution seemed a little bit low, and I don't know, like when you start dealing with like lower resolutions like that. For me, it's a little harder to decipher what the frame rate is. I can usually tell in like a second whether it's running at 120 reprojected or 90 native. And with this, I was like, I don't know, man. It's kind of blurry, so it's not immediately jumping out at me. I would have guessed. I think my guess is that it's running a reprojected.
Gotcha. So what is this game, Brian?
Well, you play as a demon and you go around and you find like these innocent dudes that are just like trying to live their lives and not bother anybody. And then you beat the crap out of them because they like rainbows. Oh, wait. Hold on a second. Okay, I just got it.
Yeah. So I saw somebody post actually in the news channel, and I was like, what? I was like, what is this? And then I was thinking it was related to maybe No More Heroes. And I was like, oh, is this a sequel to No More Heroes? Because I really like that. It's that strategy game from Japan Studio that was on PSVR1. Another one that should come over. But so I saw the trailer and I was just like, what? Like, this looks insane. Because, yeah, it's basically just shows you playing as a demon, running around in this cartoony world. And, yeah, like, you're violently destroying this, like, very supposed to be, like, pretty and just peaceful.
You're the bad guy.
Lovey-dovey world. It's like, yeah, and you're definitely playing as the bad guy. And then it's showing like just a lot of chaos, and it's got like multiplayer modes and like all this like stuff to it. And I was like, holy shit, like I gotta check this out and see what I think. And yeah, so I've never played Gorilla Tag before, but I know what it is. And this is the first time I've actually played Gorilla Tag style gameplay, which is basically a first-person platformer where you move by slamming the ground with your arms and your hands, and the locomotion is all performed by moving around with your arms and things like that. But then you have like the little claws that you press in the button and your claws come out, and then you can. I got a good laugh out of the first 5 minutes because you're going around and there's these cute little things that are just all happy and minding their own business, and you just fucking impale them like through the face, and they're like, ah, and then not only that, but you can like grab them and like rip off their skin, and they're bleeding, their guts are exposed and it's all rainbow colored, and then they're like bleeding like rainbow blood, and it was something. So and then I played for a little while, and that's basically all I did. It's mostly platforming, but I did notice that there started to be a couple of like gameplay change-ups. Like there was like a time trials thing where you're actually running around the course through rings, and there's a timer, and it's pretty challenging. And I was like, okay, like there's actually a game here. Like this isn't, I thought at first this was just kind of like a kind of meme game, as I like to call them. Something that's just more intended just to be like silly. And that's kind of what it is. But yeah, it's not really my thing, but I do think that there is like some kind of like, somewhat of a competent standard game here that I think especially a younger generation would probably find more amusing than an older generation.
I checked out some Steam reviews, AJ, because I was like, wait, I've heard lots of great things about this game. And I was, again, everyone, I think pretty much everyone agrees that Stilt is just this concept done better, minus the rainbow stuff. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so it does, I have heard that it starts slow. It takes a little while to kind of get its hooks in you, get its claws in you. And so I'm very interested in sticking with it and spending more time with it. This will probably be, as long as nothing comes up, which shit comes up constantly. As long as nothing comes up, this might be my next actual review. I'm going to spend a lot more time with this because I'm I'm curious, genuinely curious to see where it goes and how much fun I have with the time trials and all that. And I just love platformers, and I love Stilt, right? So even if this is sort of a subpar Stilt, I think I'll still get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So this will probably be my next full-fledged review. Like I said, as long as nothing comes up, and then a couple Brian bites for the other stuff that's been happening lately. We got 90s Extreme Skiing coming out later this week. We've got the Bridge the Gap game that I've been playing a little bit of, and I think those will be perfect for Brian bites. Meanwhile, this I'm going to spend so much time with that it better be a full-fledged review.
It seems okay. $20. I paid $20 for it. I don't.
Yep.
It wasn't very like. I think it's probably appropriately priced. But from myself, what I would pay for it is probably less, just because it's just not my thing, man. And like it seems okay, but yeah,
But you love platformers, and you love time trials, and you love challenging games. This feels like it might be all of those.
I do, but I don't think I'm the target audience here. Just like I'm not the target audience for Gorilla Tag. Like it's like the most popular game, and I have zero interest in playing it. Yeah, man, no, I'm gonna wait for the next. We've had like I said before, a huge wave of games we just got through that was really difficult. I know it sounds like I'm being weak here, but no, like it is a lot of work, and a lot of these games like take a lot of time to get through and then make reviews and stuff. And like, so I'm just going to kind of cool it, because I'm sure there's some big stuff. In fact, I know there's some big stuff that's coming in pretty hot. There's some pretty big games coming right around the corner. So I'm going to save my energy for that. And in the meantime, just kind of go back to, doing a couple of other things. And yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes out this week. And I probably would give this a little bit more time, but I have to continue playing my favorite game of all time in VR. It must be done. So I'm probably going to be featuring that a lot this week, alongside maybe some, other stuff going on here.
Sounds exciting.
If I can't cover everything, I sure as hell ain't going to spend time covering this one more than this.
Yeah, no, it drives me crazy. Like I'm covering it because it's new, right? And it's like there's so many games over from the last 2 years. We're coming up to the 2-year anniversary of PSVR2. It's so many games over the last 2 years that I've not given any attention to. Right? There's not even a Brian bite on it. Never mind an actual review. So, I'm looking to change that this year. Looking to make sure I get a lot more games covered in one way or another, including games that got past us. DMABR in the chat says, "What happened to Exocars?" Same thing that always happens to Exocars. It just keeps getting pushed back because they can't get through certification. And according to Zocus and Joyway, it has nothing to do with the quality of the game. It has everything to do with like UI elements that they keep getting dinged for. Where it's like it shows a Quest controller instead of a PSVR2 controller, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
I will be definitely playing some more of 90s Extreme Skiing. That's one we can't talk about.
We can show the trailer though. Did you know that they put out a trailer?
Oh yeah, I heard about that. The trailer looks pretty good.
I don't know where the trailer went.
But yeah, I'm sure like Exocars is coming pretty soon. I don't know. Jolly Roger might be right around the corner. Some other Redacted might
Jolly
be
Roger's
very soon.
Jolly Roger's end of Q2.
42? Okay.
Yeah, Cold VR Q2.
That got pushed back.
Yeah, it was never coming to PSVR2 this month or next month.
Mm-hmm.
It was never happening. And the messaging has been awful on that game.
Yeah, Exocars is. I mean, we don't even have a date for that, so I don't even know.
They just keep pushing it a couple more weeks. Every week they go, oh, it'll be out in 2 weeks, and then like 2 more weeks, they go 2 more weeks. Which I mean, good for them. They think that it's right there. They're just waiting for Sony's approval to release the game. Which is
that proves to hurt your launch though. So they need to just shut up until it's ready. Because that's gonna just every time you do that, people get less and less excited about the game.
Yeah, people say they get less and less excited, and then they buy the game anyway. Because people are.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know.
I mean, I saw like one dude on their Discord that was like, I'm fucking fed up. And I was like, you're fed up because it was supposed to come out 2 months ago? All right. Listen, I've lost a lot of empathy for people. It's like when you're outraged about everything all the fucking time, then I mean, I'll never take you seriously when you're actually outraged.
No, I've kind of changed my stance on this because, like I said, I don't think that this is just the vocal minority anymore. I do think that this is in some ways maybe not the majority, but this is a significant amount of people. And everything with VR spreads by word of mouth. And if there's not people generating excitement, then nobody's going to know or care.
But my question, AJ, is how can you be so goddamn excited that you ask the developers every single day, when's your game coming out? When's the PSVR2 version coming out? When is it coming out? When is it? And then they're like, oh, listen, we're really sorry. Things beyond our control cause this game to get delayed for, I mean, we're talking literally weeks, a couple of months, right? And then they go, well, fuck you. That's their response. That's not a human response. That's not a serious person response. That's the biggest joke of a response I've ever heard. And those people, honestly, have a little fucking empathy. It's a studio that desperately wants to sell you their game, and it would have been out 2 months ago if they could have gotten it out 2 months ago. Like, I'm sorry. Like, fuck you if that's your response to people trying to give. Yeah.
It's always that one negative comment, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why it's not representative of anybody. Right, yeah. It's nonsense at this point, and like
that's what sticks with you.
You just smile and nod and go, "You're a fucking idiot," right? But you say it to yourself, and you don't say it. You say it to yourself, and you don't say it live on a podcast with 300 people watching. That's for sure. Chrome Claus says that's the internet. Yeah, that is the internet, 100%, dude. All right, we've also been talking about exo cars while I've got the 90s extreme skiing trailer going, so that made no sense whatsoever. Jesus, I'm gonna stop watching this channel. What a fucking joke! Fuck these guys. Dan Keeper says, was skiing better in the 90s? I only went skiing in the 90s, so I don't know. I don't know if how it compares to skiing.
No,
nowadays.
It was not better. It's much better now.
Is it?
Yes.
That's good to know.
The gear that you have, the courses, everything is like refined. It's so much better now than it was.
Nice. AJ, let's play a 4-minute challenge and get out of here.
All right.
Oh, right. Guys, I'm going to need all the help I can possibly get. It's AJ's turn. He picked a PSVR1 or PSVR2 game. Who we're getting, it's a PSVR1 game. And we've only got 4 minutes and an infinite number of questions to figure out what game he's thinking of. So please help me out with good questions in the chat. And also, good suggestions based on the answers we get. On my mark, get Des. Go. Is this on PSVR1?
No.
Of course. Oh, wait. It's on PSVR2. I'm actually heard you wrong. Okay, it's on PSVR2.
Did you say of course?
I did. I actually thought I didn't understand the answer to the very first question. Is it also on Quest?
Yes.
Is it also on PC?
Ooh. Hold on that thought.
All right.
I don't think so.
Okay. Is there
I don't see it on Steam.
Okay. Is it a licensed game? Does it have any kind of license attached to it?
No.
Okay. Has the studio made other VR games we'd be familiar with? On PSVR1, PSVR2?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Is it first person?
Technically, yes.
Technically, yes. Is it a board game?
No.
Okay, it's not Demio, but good guess, guys.
It's it's first person. Sorry.
It's first person. Okay. Was it a launch game on PSVR2?
Ooh.
Okay, so it was close to being a launch game.
Yes, it looks like it was a launch game.
Whoa. Okay, that narrows it down, you guys. Is it playable on the flat screen?
No.
Okay, it's not Garden of the Sea. That's the only game that was in my head. I can't think of any other launch titles.
Apparently, this game is also on PS4. What?
Okay.
Apparently, it's on PSVR1 as well.
Okay.
According to this.
Okay. There's a lot of those that like kind of snuck out. Shit.
I don't want to give too many hints, but yeah.
It's all right. Is it a roguelite?
No.
Okay, it's not the Light Brigade because that was the one that snuck out on PSVR1, I think. I was like, wait, when did that happen? I'm not looking at the chat. I gotta look at the chat. Do you shoot guns in this game?
No.
Do you swing swords in this game?
No.
Is there combat in this game?
No.
Oh my god. Okay. Is you Cities VR definitely didn't come on PSVR1. It was published by Fast Travel.
No.
Okay. Looper's wondering if there's any vehicles in this game. Do you operate any vehicles?
No.
Hey, Markio says Humanity, but that was not a launch title. Chaos. Is it a puzzle game?
Yes.
It is a puzzle game. Okay. Oh my god, I can't think of any puzzle games. What's the Clockwinder one? Is this do you create clones of yourself, replicate yourself to solve the puzzles?
No.
God damn it, it's not the last Clockwinder. I don't know what game this is. Does this feature eye tracking heavily?
No.
Okay, it's not before your eyes, you guys. Oh my god, do I hate this game?
No.
Okay, it's not What the Bat, guys.
God.
Shit. No. AJ would know that Tetris Effect was on PSVR 1. He knows that. Tin Hearts was not a launch title. Onagoro. Shit. Was this published by Amada Games?
No.
Okay, it's not Onagoro. Motherfucker. Dude, we got 2 seconds. I'm just going to say the next game that pops up. Is it Car Mechanic Simulator? That wasn't a launch game.
No, Brian, but it was said a couple times in the chat.
Motherfucker. I'm so sorry, you guys. I wasn't paying attention.
You missed the right ones. Came out February 22nd, 2023, which is the launch of the thing.
Why is it so difficult?
By realities.io.
Oh my
Inc.
god, it's Puzzling Places?
It is Puzzling Places, the jigsaw game. You didn't mention any multiplayer.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Is this game on PSVR 1?
Yeah, dude, that's where I fucking reviewed it.
Puzzling Places.
Yeah, that's where I reviewed it. Puzzling Places. And it looked beautiful on PSVR 1.
You reviewed it on PSVR 1. I don't remember this.
Yep.
Right. When did it come out on PSVR 1?
1892.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Checks out.
I don't know, man. I want to say like 2020. 2021. It was later. It was later in the lifespan, right?
Yeah.
2021, 2022. I don't fucking know.
Apparently it's been completely erased from my memory because I do not remember playing this.
Oh,
on
I mean,
PSVR 1.
And for a PSVR 1 game, it looked stunning, right? They had all these the photogrammetry photos, and it all just looked like really great in high res, and now it looks even better in PSVR 2. Wow, that was...
Scott, the PSVR game kept for life, says 1669.
All right, man.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't have that as a launch title in my head. Although when we play this game, I swear, like anything I had in my head is completely fucking gone. Just
I corrected myself. The chat's booing me and throwing lettuce and tomato and cabbage at me.
It's healthy. Open your mouth.
I corrected myself.
What did you say that was wrong?
That it
was
originally
on PSVR
said
1?
it wasn't
Okay.
on PSVR 1.
Yeah, whatever. I wasn't gonna get it anyway. Like,
I threw them up. That was not intentional. I had no idea it was on PS3 1.
It's all good. Dude, we got to get out of here. But thank you everybody for hanging out. This has been such a rough month for me. Really don't like being sick in bed and not being able to do anything. As much as I love being in bed and watching fucking TV all day, it's not fun when you like literally can't get out of bed and you feel like you're dying. So thank you to everybody who decided to try to diagnose me without even knowing what I was sick from. Which was interesting. Who knew that we had so many doctors watching the channel, AJ? It was fucking insanity. But we love you guys so very much, and it always sucks to be away from you. So hopefully this means that we're back on schedule, and we'll be doing the show regularly Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Back again. PSVR this week. A lot of questions about PSVR this week. People have been asking if it's coming back. Yes, it's coming back. I basically have last week's PSVR this week completely scripted, and I started editing it and was just like, oh, I'm fucking done, and I went back to bed. Like I just couldn't continue to do it, right? Sometimes like when you're sick and you're sitting in front of a monitor and like the brightness of it's just too much, and like you're just like, I need to lay down. And so, but yeah, PSVR this week will be back. Everything's coming back. And again, Brian Bites reviews. I'm working on it all. I'm very, very excited to be feeling better and to be doing this again. Thank you, AJ, for being here. Everybody, make sure you go subscribe to PSVR Underground if you haven't already. The link for that is in the chat. Also, while you're clicking links, come join our Discord. That's where these conversations happen 24/7. That's where I hang out 24/7. And so come hang out with me. That's it's like where I live. It's my little safe space, my little safe haven of the internet. But thank you everybody else who helps the channel run, especially those who help with the channel financially. It's been really rough the last month without any income. So thank you for all those who support me on patreon.com/withoutparolegames. By being a member over here, by tipping during the show, it all means way more than you can possibly imagine. So thank you guys. But money will never be the most important thing here. So thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out during the show. Thanks for helping during 20 questions. And thanks to everybody who sits back and watches the show and doesn't say a goddamn word. We know you're out there. We love you just as much.
Give the motherfucking cat right, because I want to say see you guys on Wednesday to DMA VR. Says, have a good one, people. Alessandro Barlotto. See you later. Ciao. Oak V3D. Good to see you again. Haven't seen you in a while. I love New York, too. Shout out New York. Steve_IRE says, what did you have, Brian? Bambino Ramos.
Never mind.
He had like 4 STDs. Bambino Ramos.
4? You think it was only 4?
His STDs had STDs.
And
they created antibodies. Now he's got the cure.
I got the uncurable ones.
I got the Dyson fist bump to you. Shades of Gray Matter. Thanks so much, man. Scott, the PSVR Game Cap for Life. Thank you for being you, Scotty boy. Matt_vegan says, look for some of my 666 global high scores in Arcade Paradise. Barkanoid and KO Champ so far. Nice. I haven't played Barkanoid and KO Champ. I look forward to though. Awesome Tatum in the house tonight.
I hate KO Champ. It's just like you can cheat it so badly. So like, why wouldn't you? Just like shove my hands out every 2 seconds and knock down all 3 of them. I think that's KO Champ. Is that KO Champ? I don't know.
It sounds like it. Yeah. Thank you, Awesome Tatum. Secrets of says Brian has got the American flu. Hussein X.
Bam says I have super AIDS.
Oh my god.
This is getting dark, you guys. It's getting real dark.
Game cat. Super. I like super. Like Mischievous Marco, the underground game cat. Happy Monday, my friend. Bad Rebel. Bye. Hasta la vista. All of y'all have a wonderful Magic the Game Cat. TGK2. You have a wonderful night. And we'll see you again Wednesday.